Hey guys, Brian Silvestri here, 21-year real estate veteran. Just want to give you a couple of quick hacks that you can use as buyers to determine value in the Manhattan real estate market. Okay, first thing, take a look on Street Easy. This is where most people search for property these days, and take a look at the number of users that saved the listing. Anything that's triple digits or higher, it indicates a strong amount of interest for a property. Now you have to also offset that with how long something's been in the market. So if something's been in the market a weekend and there's 62 saves on Street Easy, that indicates there's a lot of interest in the property. It's likely to go quickly. If a property's been out for 4 months or 5 months and has 62 saves on Street Easy, that doesn't indicate as much of obviously as much interest. Okay, so take a look at that. Okay, that's one thing, number of people that save something on Street Easy. The second thing to take a look at is in a building, how many apartments are for sale in relation to how many apartments are in the building. So, for example, in the building where I live, we have 414 units, and currently, I believe we have 4 or 5 units for sale. So, 4 or 5 units out of 414 just is barely 1%. So that indicates there's not a lot of turnover. And of course, it could change on the season, but in general, it's a pretty good indication if you find that there's not that many apartments for sale in relation to the number of units in the building. I mean, I've seen buildings like on the Upper West Side, Riverside Boulevard, where there was 200 some odd units and there was more than 20 apartments for sale. And the reason why was because the tax abatement was expiring, and as a result, a lot of people felt like that was the right time to sell. So there was a little bit of a spike in terms of the number of people that were selling. And then also a higher percentage of property for sale in relation to the number of units, could also just indicate things are staying on the market a little bit longer. The last thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, another quick hack that you can look at, is the monthly charges. So if we're looking at something that's like a luxury apartment or a new development, you're going to have a lot of amenities, so it's normal that your monthly charges would be high. What do we mean by high? Well, let's say you have a 1,200 square foot apartment. Um, if you take that 1,200 square feet and you triple it, unless you're talking about something that's a new development or a building full of amenities like a pool, a roof deck, 24-hour doorman, and maybe like a fancy gym. Unless you're talking about a lot of amenities like that, if you're tripling the square footage of the apartment, you're paying $3,600 a month. That's on the high side. The average Manhattan apartment would be probably closer to double the square footage, double to 2.5 times approximately. If you see, again, a 1,200 square foot apartment and you're paying, and the common charges and taxes are $5,000, something's wrong. You should investigate a little bit further. For example, I sold an apartment about 2 years ago in Battery Park City. And if you're not familiar with Battery Park City, it's a beautiful area, lots of greenery on the water, and all of Battery Park City is on a land lease. So it means all of those nice buildings down there, the co-op or condo does not own the land underneath it, so they pay rent. So in every building has a different deal with on the rent in Battery Park City, and then pretty much throughout Manhattan. It just depends on who owns the land underneath the property and how much they're charging. And every certain number of years, that whole rent resets. And that's when you can see a big spike. So for example, the apartment I was selling 2 years ago was 1,300 square feet, and the monthly charge was $6,250, I think. So almost 5 times the square footage in monthly payments. And considering that the apartment probably rents for $7,500, you have to ask yourself, is it worth $1 million plus to save $1,000 a month? Is in that extreme, it might just be better to rent in a building like that if you really like it. Okay, so that's an extreme, a very high monthly charge. On the other extreme, there's probably about 2 dozen buildings, give or take, where the total monthly charges, so your common charges and taxes for condos or your maintenance for co-op, is roughly the same as the square footage. So 1,500 square foot apartment, you pay $1,500 a month in common charges and taxes or in maintenance. There's very, very few buildings that will have those type of numbers. One area where you find is on the Upper West Side in the building where I live, which is 400 Central Park West, and that's part of Central Park West Towers, or AKA Park West Village, which is 372, 382, 392, and 400 CPW. All of those buildings have very low common charges. So that's another kind of hack as to how you can kind of gauge value. And I'll tell you why that matters is because for example, I had a buyer maybe 5 years ago that I showed an apartment to, and he decided he wanted to spend, I think his budget was up to about 500 at that time. And I found an apartment where he might have had to spend 550 or 560, but the monthly charges for this apartment, which was 650 square feet, were about $600, $700. So it was really low. Because he was focused in on the amount of money, the sale price, he passed on that one and wound up buying another property that was on the like Midtown East, up Lenox Hill, almost Upper East Side area. And over there, for a 750 square foot apartment, his monthly charges were over 2,000, but the price was where he wanted it to be. So fast forward a few years, the $560,000 apartment with the low monthly charges has now gone over $800,000. His apartment, which he bought, I think around 500, with the higher common charges, the common charges went up even more, and it probably went up to about maybe 560, 570. So one apartment went up 30%, one apartment went up about 10%. So look at those monthly charges, and if it seems out of line with what's the average, again, the average is about double the square footage, double to 2.5 the most. If it's higher than that, then just start asking questions, ask some questions as to why it is. So I hope you guys find these 3 hacks really helpful, and feel free to comment in below if you have any other questions, and I'll circle back and read the comments and answer any questions that you have. And there are lots of other hacks that you can use to quickly kind of gauge value and interpret the data that you're seeing on StreetEasy, Zillow, Trulia, all these different sites. And so I'm happy to share that with you as well. All right, take care, guys, and see you soon.